We've talked a lot on the show about the volatility in public markets, about SPACs, about IPOs. What about the private markets, though, and the sort of pipeline for all of these fresh issues that we have been watching so closely? Let's talk about that with Jeff Bussgang. He is general partner and co-founder of Flybridge Capital and senior lecturer at the Harvard Business School. Jeff, thanks for being here. First of all, I guess I would ask you, are you seeing some mirroring in the private markets of what we've seen in the public markets in terms of valuations, in terms of, I know private markets tend to be not so volatile, but I do wonder if you're seeing any of that play out in the private markets also.
The private markets have been pretty hot lately. And I think a lot of it is attributed to the pandemic, frankly, and the acceleration of the digitization of the economy and the globalization and the earth is flat and all of the trends that we've seen play out. So our markets have never been stronger. If you talk to my peers in the venture capital industry, what they'll tell you is this has been arguably the best year in the industry's history.
Well, Jeff, and I guess we were just talking about inflation, right? And it's a result of base effects. So we're lapping a period in which prices were low because the economy was halted. Last year there was a famous memo. I think Andreessen Horowitz maybe put it out. Maybe it was Sequoia that circulated it with their portfolio companies of, pretty much get rid of anything that isn't nailed down. It's time to lean down and survive this period. And the world changed, I think, much faster than people expected. Is that buoyancy that you're seeing in your markets maybe a result of how much people feared that something very bad was going to happen to markets in 2020 and having those worst fears, very much allayed as we got through the year?
I think the thing that we've all realized in the last year is that the mantra that Mark Andreessen put out, that software is eating the world, that's played out. And we've seen our industries, our verticals, the market sizes have exhibited more strength, more growth than ever before. So all the little bets that investors like Flybridge and other venture capital firms have made over the years in technology transformation, in innovation, that's all now played out in an accelerated fashion.
And Jeff, too, what terms of trends, just in terms of the next generation of technology, what are you seeing there?
Well, one of the big trends we're seeing is that the age of platforms is starting to mature, where companies like Google and Amazon and Facebook have built these extraordinary platforms, cloud platforms, AI platforms, and now we're seeing the age of vertical applications. So we refer to it as applied AI, where people are taking these incredible AI tools and applying them to individual vertical industries. So, for example, we have a company called BrightHire, which is taking natural language processing to automate and strengthen the data that you can derive from interview processes. All interviews now are happening digitally through video and phone. They're writing out the transcripts of those interviews and providing analytics to allow for better diversity, inclusion, performance. So in industry after industry, you're seeing AI applications being applied in a very disruptive way.
It felt like for a while there that we were getting waves of different types of public offerings of privately held companies in different concentrations. Software, to your point, consumer facing. When we look at your portfolio, yes, you have AI in there, but you also have food-related, consumer-facing software, et cetera. What do you think is going to be sort of the more, is AI going to be the sort of dominant theme, do you think? Or do you think it's going to continue to be that sort of hodgepodge or diversified portfolio?
I think it's pretty diversified. You look at every industry, fintech, ed tech, marketing tech, it's all being transformed. And venture capital firms like ourselves, we're rather opportunistic. We follow the trends, we follow the entrepreneurs and try to pick the industries and pick the opportunities where we see the most disruption. And you mentioned about the public markets. That's been great for us. IPOs have been terrific. SPACs, I'm in the middle of a SPAC process right now. We had one of our companies go public just 2 weeks ago. That's allowed for tremendous momentum. And when we see that later stage momentum and those exits, it just fuels the early stage where Flybridge and other early stage firms play.
And, Jeff, whenever we talk to folks who are, teaching in a business school, I'm always curious what their current students who are, I guess, theoretically the next generation of business leaders, what they're interested in. There have been so many trend pieces on, Silicon Valley is the new Wall Street for an HBS type grad, what are those kids interested in? Well, not kids, they're probably in their 30s, but what are those folks interested in doing as they kind of matriculate through your ranks, and where do they see the ball kind of going?
Yeah, in my 10 years of teaching here at Harvard, I've noticed a really interesting trend towards purpose, that a lot of our students are now really determined to find ways to find their purpose and build mission-driven companies. Maybe those are companies that are focused on sustainability or the environment. We have an alum who recently created a startup in the synthetic biology space, providing synthetic palm oil to reduce the deforestation around the globe. So you see these really interesting purpose-driven startups more and more now in the young students that I see coming through my class.
That is really interesting. I guess ESG is going to everything, every layer at this point. Jeff Bussgang is general partner and co-founder of Flybridge Capital. He's also a senior lecturer, to that last point, at Harvard Business School.